Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the James Kennedy podcast. How you doing? I hope Mr. Alec Clifford is happy that his podcast has come out on time this week, and I'll be looking forward to a detailed feedback report by no later than 10 a.m. Just a little private joke there amongst friends. Don't worry if you haven't got a fucking clue what I'm talking about. It's not essential to the rest of the episode. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode with the brilliant Professor Tim Spector, who's given you everything you need to know about food and nutrition. And as always, if you're enjoying the podcast, please do give us a subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us a star rating. It all really helps the show. Got a great one for you guys this week. If you've owned a pair of ears at any point during the last 30 years, or ever been to a festival, or looked at a music magazine, or turned the radio on at any point, you will have heard of the Mighty Levelers. Bringing the good times and blending genres through kick-ass songs and socio-political lyrics since 1988. The Levelers have been doing their thing and doing it their way for over 30 years, never once succumbing to the temptations of the major label machinery. Having been outspoken, principled, and hard grafting consistently in their long and awesome career, this band has seen and done it all. So I'm super excited to be able to talk with the lead singer and songwriter in the band, Mr. Mark Chadwick. Mark, thanks so much for doing this, man. How you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. I think you might actually be the first guest to actually ask me how I'm doing, so I appreciate that, man. And I know that bodes well for the rest of the chat. So I thought we would start, before we jump into the music and the band and everything, let's clear the air, let's get some shit off our chest, and let's do a little bit of politics first, if you're okay with that.
Oh, yeah, always.
I fear I may have kicked a wasp's nest now. What is your take then, as we start a new year, 2023, as you look around you and survey the terrain and the heartbreaking shit show that we see around us? What is your take on how we got here and what the fuck is going on?
How did we get here? It's a long story, but the actual where we are is beyond desperate. Yeah. There is no denying that, and it is a global situation. Our country is leading the way in how crap the world can actually possibly be, and how quickly things can change from a reasonable sort of like level of crap government to oh my god, yeah. This is just beyond unusual. This is a hypocrisy. This is just appalling, and it's obvious how it's happened and why it's happened, but it's like, oh, how quickly it can happen.
Oh, yes.
And how sort of like people don't feel they can do anything about it. That's the weirdest bit. And everyone's looking at their internet news or whatever they get in their Facebook news, the news, whatever, their papers, and they're just feeling completely unable to do anything about it. They're watching this thing from as if it's not really happening to them.
Yes,
it is. It's all happening, and it's across the board. It's not one bit. There's not one bit of it that's working. It's everything is broken. Literally everything, from the judicial system to the sewers. It's like, okay, and everything in between. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's pretty serious. That's the serious neglect, and it's shocking. And everyone's just looking, going, "Wow, this is crazy."
It is crazy.
And the levels is bad. We've been putting this shit out for a long time, a really long time. We're not. I don't know, people say, levels a political band. We're not. We're an observational band. We observe the world we live in. We don't tell people how to live their lives. We go, look, this is going down, and this is a good thing. This may not be such a great thing, and that's what we do, and that's what we've been always done. And if the world had listened to us, we wouldn't be in this shit now. Fact.
100%. I totally agree. I think everybody listening would agree with that, Mark. I mean, you've been in the business, how long has the band been together? 35 years now?
35,
36, something like that? Yeah.
35, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you've been doing social commentary and political commentary now for a long time. As you look at the state of the world or the country today, how do you feel it fares out? When you compare it to the late 70s, early 80s, the Thatcher?
It's never been this bad.
Right.
It's never been this bad. That's a simple fact. And people of generation older than mine would say the same. They're like, oh my God, this is literally shocking. This is worse than the Winter of Discontent of 79. This is worse than Thatcher's attack of the nationalised industries. This is worse than anything. This is worse than the Criminal Justice Act of the 90s. This is worse than any erosion. This is corrosion.
Well put, man. Yeah, well said. And what have you seen in the social change as well? What have you seen in terms of how people are responding to this stuff compared to what you saw, in the 80s with everything that was unfolding?
I'm amazed. I mean, back in the day, people were more political. In the 80s, they were. Even pop music was political in the 80s, believe it or not. A lot of chart music was very political. So when the Levers came out in the late 80s, it's quite natural to be quite political in your music. It wasn't a big deal, you know. It became not so much in the 90s. We were pretty much the everyone else was having a party, so were we. But it was like party time, woohoo!
Yeah,
and that kind of led us into a false sense of security, I think, for a lot of people, and consequently, younger generation never really picked up on that vibe of like actually taking to the streets, like the poll tax riots, which was in the end of the 80s, where people actually, you know, beginning of the 90s, like fuck this is dreadful. We need to do something, you know, riots against student loans, all those sort of things. Big deal. People would go to take the streets. Young people would take the streets and smash shit up.
Yeah.
They just don't. They just look at it, just tick a like.
Yep, 100%.
You know, tick a like. Yeah, I hate that too, boy.
Yeah, and it is always hate as well. I hate that. That's it. That's the only.
Yeah, I like hating that.
Yeah.
I've swayed. I've done some. You know, and if people get that, and that little bit of morphine goes into your brain. Like, yeah, I've done some.
Yeah.
And you haven't. Nothing. I'm amazed that people aren't in the streets. I do think there's a lot to do with it.
Do you sense that changing though? Because I feel like the government can sense something coming, which is why they're making all these moves now to make protest illegal. It's almost like they're preempting a wave of resistance. What do you think?
Well, they're aware of the situation they've created for themselves, and they know, and they're putting up their defences because they know it's coming down. It will eventually. You know, people will take so much. I don't know how much they can take, to be honest. It strikes me that they can take a fucking awful lot.
They certainly can, yeah.
But they really can, and it's like, wow, how is this possible?
Well, it's almost like we've reached the definition of madness and insanity, isn't it? You were looking at this with a completely impartial set of eyes and assessed it on those terms, you would be only able to conclude that this is institutionalized insanity.
It really is, and it's beyond insane. It's like, how does it, even like, you know, you think, oh God, there must be somebody up there pulling the strings and gets all this right.
Yeah.
Obviously not. You know, it puts an end to all conspiracy theories. It's like there's a conspiracy with kleptocracy, and then they've done it. They've won. Well done. They've fucked the case for the entire country. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well
they
done.
Really have, man.
But at which point is that good for them? It was good for anybody. You know, they lie in their pockets, obviously, but you know, essentially, that's really it. That's it. That's all it's ever been, and that's what they've done, and they've won.
Well, something that I've talked about quite a few times in the podcast with different guests. It's something I'm trying to figure out. That always really that confuses me. I can't get my head around it. Is when you look at the elite, you know, the 1% who are destroying this planet and everything on it. These are all highly educated, well-connected people who know what's going on just as well as anybody else does. They know that the role that they play in it, yet they continue to do the things that they do, which directly contribute to the end of life for the planet as we know it and everything on it, including their grandkids. So I just can't understand the mentality of that. All I can decide is that they must be psychopaths.
Well, you know, yeah, is the answer. They are. I mean, and they breed psychopaths, and it's an environment. It's the heady world they live in. It's a very heady world,
right? I'm
sure, you know. And it's like, yeah, we're just great. Aren't we the best at being fucking cunts? You know what I mean? So you don't swear on this.
Oh, it's too late now, Mark. Nah, go for it, man. Fucking right.
All right, okay. But yeah, and they are, and they don't like go around. They raise their children to be cunts. So I always used to think back from the days like their children would be tagging them on the daddy's sleeping. Dad, aren't you worried about the environment? But I think they bred that out of them,
right?
You know, and the kids go, well, fuck this shit. Whereas people used to rebel against everyone. So I think these days they go, yeah, fuck, I'm having some of that. Yeah, I want all the money too. Yeah, fuck it. You know, yeah. It's broke what we got here. Let's fucking get rich.
Right, so you think that they know what's going on, but instead of doing something about it, they're just thinking, fuck it, there's no chance of saving us, so let's just grab everything for ourselves, fuck everybody else, and let's just have one big last greedy, decadent hurrah before it's game over. That
would appear to be what seems to be going down. And I mean, I knew this was going to happen eventually. I thought it was a much slower process. I didn't realize how fucking quick it was going to be.
Yeah, well, me neither. I mean, do you derive some hope, though, from the fact that this issue, more than any other, seems to be really mobilizing people to get up and out in bigger numbers than ever before? Because, you know, you're seeing the rise now of groups like Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil.
Yeah, no, there's always a positive side. There is a positive side. There are people angry out there. There's people doing stuff, but there's not enough.
Right.
That's my point. It's not enough. It's not that literal, like, you know, like they do in other countries. You know, people always say that. But England doesn't really have a massive history of taking to the streets. It doesn't. No. You know, and when it does take to the streets, it's generally beaten to fuck. You know what I mean? Whereas in places like France, they take to the streets. It's quite a regular thing.
Yeah.
In Germany, they take
Yeah.
to the streets on a regular basis, since everyone gets out and practices. I've seen them practice anarchists versus police every May the 1st. They go, okay, I'll have a jolly good riot. And everyone works out the moves. It's really weird. But like, we don't do that. You know,
No.
we don't have a history of that, of street action. But it has happened, and it can happen. I hope it does happen. I mean, I genuinely think that is the only thing that's going to make a difference.
Right.
It's literally people tearing shit down. I actually do.
I totally agree with you, man. I mean, do you have any faith at all in the electoral system?
No. Unfortunately, no. I mean, it had an opportunity, it had a way, because the system itself, yeah, all right, whatever. If it's proportional representation, maybe.
Right, yeah.
But first post doesn't work. And also, with the media so heavily weighed towards whatever they want, then it kind of affects so many people that don't actually think about things. They get told what to vote, they do it.
Yeah.
Right? And they go, they're not going to vote Tory next time, a lot of people, because they were told not to now. That's that argument is changing. So you're going to vote for Keir Starmer now. That's happening. Right. So that is what will happen, and it's not going to be a particularly massive radical change. Unfortunately,
No.
It's not going to be. I know people going on about Jeremy Corbyn and all that, but essentially he was right about a lot of things. And it's like, okay, and I wouldn't describe myself as a Corbynist. I wouldn't even describe myself as a socialist particularly. But I would say, so I don't have no faith in the system. No. I don't.
I agree with you, man.
We get fucked every time. Some cunt gets that. Basically, with self-interest at heart.
No matter who you vote for, the cunt wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. We did a whole episode on proportional representation. We had Make Votes Matter on, explaining how it all works and everything like that. I just realised that, the only choice we've got at this point is to vote for Labour if we want to get the Tories out. Because I'm a member of the Green Party, and have been for a long time.
Yeah.
But I've got to be realistic.
Exactly.
If we want to get the Tories out, it's got to be Labour, because we don't have any other realistic option.
Well, if you're sensible, yeah. I prioritise it, and I would I'll prioritise it. This is a situation we are in now.
Yeah.
Right? I would prioritise it. So, I would vote fucking Labour. Or whoever's going to get a Tory out in my constituency. Right. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm pragmatic like that. I don't care. I don't have a particular allegiance. I've never voted Tory, and I never will. But I will vote for anybody else just to get rid of a Tory, because they are scum of the earth.
Oh, they really are, man. And they've done us all over good and proper this time. And if we all haven't learned a big fucking lesson from the last 12 years, then shame on us, and we deserve everything we get. If we elect these guys again the next time after everything they've done to us this past decade, then fuck us. I don't care. I'll be past caring at that point, and I'll just be working on my escape plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the problem is that ultimately it won't make that much difference, because the Labour Party are essentially Tory lights. There's not that much fucking difference between them anymore. You know what I mean? So I completely agree with you that we've got to do everything we can to get rid of them, because they are cunts. But ultimately, the only way to affect actual change is to get out there and start tearing shit up.
Yeah, but a serious visionary, which someone who's actually prepared to go, do you know what? This is daft. This is a really bad system. It's a corrupt system. It needs to be changed. We need proportional representation. We can't just keep, because no matter what you do, the Tories will always essentially win, because it's the way the country is built.
Yeah.
It's a really old political system geared towards getting them in power. Always has been. That's the way it works. It's just different versions of the Tory party. Tony Blair was a different version of the Tory party. That was all he ever was.
Yeah.
Right? It was just very Tory-like, and that's what we're going to get again. Okay, so it's and I don't care what you call it, it doesn't matter. But that's the system that we're up against. But with proportional representation, you get actually what people feel, right?
Yeah,
and what they actually want, and that's it lowers them. It brings them down to where they should belong, which is an equal partnership with other thought processes, instead of let's just get rich and protect.
Yeah,
fucking ourselves. It's no, you're going to get rich, but you have to deal with the Green Party now. We're going to tell you can't fucking do that, right? Like they do in Germany, or like they do, in some places of the world. It's a better system.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm surprised that you don't describe yourself as a socialist then, because if I was looking at the political spectrum of where to place you...
Yeah, well, I've definitely left the centre.
No shit.
All the way around. Yeah, all the way around. I'm more of an anarchist, really.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what role do you think that art can play then in advancing positive change?
Well, obviously a big one, because that's why they're so scared of it.
Yeah.
That's why they're in the process of dismantling it as much as they possibly can,
right.
Very quickly, and again, subtly, not subtle at all. Literally, right, we're not getting rid of that. Oh, right, yeah, during the pandemic, all become ballerinas. All ballerinas become fucking computer experts. Bullshit. You know what I mean? They're ignoring the fact that the arts makes them so much money, etc., etc. But they know that every artist given a fucking opportunity to speak will speak against them, and they don't like that. So consequently, the arts are important because that's what we do.
Love it. Yeah, and art is a great communicator as well, isn't it? You know, art can get straight to the point, whereas it's easy to bamboozle people with statistics and narratives and spin, whereas art can just punch you straight in the gut or hit you straight in the heart, can't it? You know what I mean?
Well, you can cut through a lot of the bullshit and can get straight to the emotion, get straight to actual, the boiling pot, the heart.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the levelers are a case in point because, I don't think your guys' longevity and staying power is just down to the awesome songs and the relentless work ethic. But I think the fact that you guys have always been so honest and outspoken and consistent with that it's given you guys a sort of trust with your audience and an extra element that they relate to and connect with you guys on that's more real, I think, than, hey, here's a band with a cool song.
It's definitely a component in our longevity, yeah, and the fact that we never got away is because of that, because we have never been, we are what we sing.
Right.
We are that.
Right.
And, it's complicated. It's not easy doing it, but generally speaking, we have a think about most things that we do. Sometimes we fuck up, but not very often. And we go like, Jesus, well, if we're going to do this, we have to think about that.
Right.
Really weigh it out and go, okay, this can be perceived as bad, and sometimes we don't do it. Even if it's like, oh, it's a good career move. Well, yeah, it ain't. Do you know what I mean? If we do that, that's bad.
Right.
We're aware of like when sucking Satan's cock is when it's available. It's like, whoa. No, I don't want to go near that. Do you know what I mean? That's bad.
Yeah, avoid the cock.
And it's there, and we're sort of well aware of it. It's like, okay. And sometimes we've done stuff and we haven't been aware. It's like, oh, fuck.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Disaster.
So you just stay true to your values and that's worked for you.
Yeah, exactly. And just unpiously going about our business, really.
Right.
Just like make it as much fun as we possibly can, but also just like keeping it real, man.
Yeah, man.
Keeping it real. And for us, it's basic common sense. Everything is common sense.
Right.
Everything we do, from our festival to our own studio, our own everything, our own record label, blah, 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 everything is common sense. And it's like, it's that does the least harm.
Well, I want to ask you about your label and your model for releasing records and stuff, but I wanted to just sort of like bridge the gap between the politics and the music stuff. This doesn't apply to you because your situation is very different. But what do you say to those people who see a conflict in bands espousing, socialistic principles whilst also being part of the capitalistic evil machinery of the record business? Do you see a conflict there, or is it just what other choices do we have?
No, that's the system you live in. It's what works. That's right. It.
Yeah.
You can't just go around, going to make them weave our own records. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. So, you're involved. You're just involved. That's the world you live in. Obviously, we do what we do, but we don't, like I said, we don't get into bed with the wrong people. Right. We've been the wrong people trying to get in bed with us.
No, I bet.
And buy parts of it. Well, no, literally got away from that. Like corporate, because we're always on independent labels, but then our independent label got bought by a major label.
Right.
And we made sure we got dropped straight away.
Right.
Because we weren't prepared to be ruled by Bugs Bunny. It wasn't really what we wanted.
Love it. So what is your model now then? Because you're completely independent now with your own record label On the Fiddle Recordings. What's your situation? Are you doing everything in-house or are you licensing and outsourcing?
Oh, we do a bit of licensing abroad, but yeah, everything's in-house, really. And now the record company business has changed so much. There's a lot of individual talent you just hire as you need. Right. Instead of like going to, someone who's probably worked for years at various different record labels and now working from home doing the same stuff, but cutting out the middleman. So that's the way we do it now, and that's the way everyone's doing it. Really, a lot. I mean, there's still major records. Don't get me wrong; they're doing better than ever, extraordinarily. Yeah, which is so, no one's earning any money, but those guys they're making shitloads of money. Oh, how are they doing that? Yeah, they're being fucking dodgy deals with fucking Spotify. That's how they're doing it. Yeah, and and everyone else gets left out in the cold. And that's just the way of it. So, but it's been a growing thing. We started doing this around 2000, 2005, we started to separate ourselves from as much of the business as possible.
Right.
And we were lucky enough to have a fan base that stuck with us throughout that time because, like I said, we were never a fashion band of any kind. You know, we weren't like part of a Britpop or fucking baggy or whatever. You know, it was like the levels on those cunts. That's all we ever were, and that's fine. Yeah, I hate those guys. Yeah, brilliant. Whatever.
You see that so often, though, don't you? Like bands who are just doing their thing and staying true to who they are and not giving a fuck about how it fits in with the broader ecosystem. You see that happen so often that they're the bands that are still fucking kicking it 30 years later.
No, exactly. Yeah, always, you know what I mean? Yeah, and it is those bands. It is those bands. It's Fugazis. It's those sort of bands, you know.
Yeah.
They just keep going and don't stop because they do their own fucking shit and they do it their own way. And they create their own power, you know, and it's brilliant. You know, Beastie Boys, genius.
Yes.
Same deal.
Yeah.
You know, that they do what we do on a bigger scale, but they do what we do.
So how are you finding the independent lifestyle then compared to the years when you were, you know, with a label doing things? I mean, I'm guessing now like the band has got so many other hats that it's got to juggle now as well as, you know, doing what you've always done.
Well, you don't have as much money to throw around as they did back then, but they don't anyway. Right, especially for rock and roll. They don't really throw money at rock and roll anymore. I think the Arctic Monkeys is the last big band to come out, weren't they? Is there anything else really that's lasted? There isn't, is there? So let's face it.
I'm scratching my head
last for about 5 minutes and then, well, they're gone. Well, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
And it depends. And that depends on the faith of the record company. Keep backing them up unless they do something independent for themselves. But I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live at the whim of another person. I lived like that for about 12 years, and it was like, that's, you know, it's long enough. At a whim. I mean, I was on a tour bus with the band who were there. I won't name the band, but like when they suddenly got dropped by their label, they were in the middle of a sellout tour.
Wow!
Just released a record, all good. Some accountant in Japan took a look down and went, zip. And the tour manager comes onto the tour bus and says, "Guys, you've just been dropped by your label."
Fuck.
Yeah, and they were fucking partying at that moment. They weren't partying after that. It was like, it's fucking over. And they're a famous band. It's like, fuck them, done. And I was like, okay, that ain't going to happen to me.
Yeah, no, fuck that, man. Jesus Christ. I mean, you've done it both ways now, with success in both. But what, just for, you know, to play devil's advocate, what are the benefits that you experienced of being with a label? Are there any?
Yeah, there are. There really are. I mean, to be honest, you know, like, you know, I talked to some record company guys who did the Manic Street Preachers record, Gold, and said it would have been easier to staple a £50 note to every record we sold. That's how much we spent to do it.
Right.
And that's how it works. That's how it works. They throw money at a situation until it sticks. They did it with us. You know, threw money at it, and it works. You know, that's, you know, advertising everywhere, getting your record on the radio, getting all that sort of stuff. That's where that comes from. That's for the, you know, the $1 million, and it takes $1 million to break a band, and it just does. Yeah, right. That's a fact.
Yeah, and
so if you haven't got that, it's so hard. For newer acts, I don't know how they do it. Yeah, they do it via the internet. Still, it's going to end up fairly niche unless you get one of those unique sort of like viral situations, or suddenly they're the right band or the right artist for the time.
Yeah.
Then they might get lucky, and you know, and there's a lot of people that do quite well doing this without the labels as such. But it's hard work.
Yeah, well, for someone like me, who's been releasing albums in, like, I don't know any other way to do it. I've only ever done it independently. I make all my records myself, financed myself, released them myself, promoted them myself, distributed them myself. I've never had a deal as such, so I don't know what that experience is like. So I've had to learn the long way and the hard way, and made a lot of mistakes and still am. But the independent model just seems to make sense to me, you know, because even people I know who are on major labels, they've got nothing good to say about it. They've got no money, and certainly, you know, through the lockdown and stuff, when everyone else was skint and considering getting day jobs and getting jobs on building sites and stuff, I was doing okay, not because I'm making loads of money, but just because I'm independent. So anything that comes in was coming into me, because, you know, I'm the label as well as the artist and the writer and the performer and everything. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense to me. And I think it is cool that we now have that option to go independent, because, before, if you couldn't get a deal, you were fucked, it was game over. So I think it is very empowering that people have got the ability to keep on trucking now, with or without a label. You can just do it yourself, it's I think it goes back to the whole DIY punk ethos,
Well, that's it. Well, that is what happened. It came DIY. And we were lucky to catch that wave and did it right at the right time.
Right.
For us, it's like, okay, this makes sense to us,
right?
And so the digital revolution aided our career to a degree, because it enabled us to continue without. If we'd have dropped on all the labels without the digital world, we probably would have really fucking struggled, right? Because you'd had to get to print media and all that, and that cost money.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have. But this is all free.
Yeah.
So. Largely, so that really helps, running websites and apps and, doing things directly, Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. I mean, it is a shame that, like I said earlier, about the having to be dependent on the big bad label machinery. Well, now, despite everything we've just said, we are dependent completely on the big bad tech industry, which I'm not sure which is worse.
Yeah, well, yeah, to a degree. I mean, I think I still believe in word of mouth. I think that still has there is the strange, the fucking 12 monkey effect, where somebody just suddenly they know about this band or this artist. You don't know why. You just do.
Right. Yeah.
You know how that happens, and that's what happens to the level. It was the strangest thing. It was like there we were plodding away. Next thing you know, everybody knew the fuck we were, and that's just weird.
Yeah.
12 monkey, boing.
Well, I mean, essentially, yeah. Speaking of word of mouth, I mean, in that sense, everything has changed, but nothing has changed, really.
Well, indeed. It's the medium of it has changed. It's probably more like the 50s now.
Okay.
I'd say than the 60s and 70s and 80s, where it was like big bucks, and where music was actually, you identified with your music. You were your music.
Yeah.
That's what you were. That was your gang. That was your crowd. That was your thing. You're a massive Smith fan, and that was you.
Yeah.
Or you were a goth, that was you, or you were a psychobilly, and that was you,
Yeah.
You're a metaler or fucking two-tone, and that was that. That was the world I grew up in. I thought that would never go. But now that's not the case. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's largely, that's quite cultured, and the young people don't really fucking understand it, to be honest. They're like, yeah, really? So yeah, that's where it was, and we beat everybody else up.
Yeah, that's very true. That man, that sense of identity, that absolute sense of identity that you define yourself with a fucking band. I miss those days. But it was a simpler world. There was less content to consume and make sense of. I mean, these days you're not going to get that, because there's just too much fucking stuff, man, to make sense of. You can't get really, really into anything anymore. You're just a little bit into lots of stuff. You know what I mean? Which is one of the many downsides, I think, to the new model. Despite all of the great things we've just said about it. But if you were going to put your cards down, having seen both sides, would you say that it's better now, worse in many ways, or is it just different?
It's just different.
Right.
Yeah, it's just different.
Different set of problems.
Different set of problems, different set of opportunities.
Love it. And where do you stand on the streaming medium, Spotify and the ilk?
I can see to say, nothing I can do about it.
Right.
That's it. It's just a fact. There's nothing there. But the thing is, people who want to buy stuff will still buy it. They'll buy it. They won't even open it. They'll still stream.
Right. Yeah.
They'll stream what they're listening to, or they don't buy it at all. You know what I mean? So when there's a lot of revenue being lost, it's just shit for musicians. It's fucking dreadful compared to what it was.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Unless they're earning money from live or from merchandise, they earn it.
No, you're right. I mean, and the touring is hard as well. I mean, people glamorize that as being, such a great revenue stream. But, if you don't have financial backing, you can't do it. I mean, if you're a small band at the Transit Van level, just doing a little stint around the UK is fucking expensive. You're in a hole before you leave.
Oh, man, I go, some of the bands, how much are you getting paid? I'm like, well, that's your diesel.
Yeah, 100%. And literally that, you're talking literally $50 or whatever just to help you get to the next gig. That's nothing to be said about food or, a bed to sleep on or anything like that. It's fucking brutal, man. I mean, and that's why I haven't gigged in so long. I mean, pandemic aside and some other things, but, I haven't toured or done shows now in fucking years, about 4 years, because I'm looking at the terrain and I'm just thinking, fuck that. Why would I bother? You know what I mean? It's too fucked right now. I'm just going to sit in the pit stop and wait it out.
Yeah. No, I get that. I totally get it, and I really admire any band that out there was knocking on the doors, doing the work. Because I know them. They ain't doing it for fucking the luxury. They're doing it for their love.
And there ain't no luxury. That's for sure.
No luxury. Not even at my level, there's no luxury.
Really?
Well, but not really. Relatively speaking, I'd say it's all right. But yeah, it's not.
You're not sleeping in the transit van anymore, though.
Not sleeping in a transit van so often.
Right.
Still can do.
Right. Okay. Well, I think, guys that came up the way you guys did, like you've been working hard now for several decades. I suppose you've got that work ethic, you know what I mean? Which sadly is lacking in a lot of bands. Certainly some of the ones that I know, because you got to do that, because with the industry being what it is and what it's always been, until you could push through to that part of the threshold where you do start earning a bit of money, until then you've got to do it at a loss, essentially. So if that means sleeping in the van, that's what you got to do,
Absolutely, and that's what people do. When friends of mine, that's what they're doing right now.
Right.
We're on the road sleeping in the van.
Yeah, my friend's exactly the same, man. I mean, I honestly can't see any other way that it's possible to keep doing your thing at the moment without doing that. You know what I mean? And I think it's good to have these conversations, I think, these honest conversations about this stuff, because I think too many people who are fans of bands have this kind of assumption that, it's all, partying and rock and roll and champagne and cocaine and groupies and private planes,
Those days are over.
So would you say then that the independent model is working out better for you? I mean, obviously you've got to incur now all the extra costs that the label was previously paying.
Well, that's not really. I mean, the costs are the costs now, because of they're the same costs that everyone's having to bear. Energy and blah, 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 all that, diesel, etc. Going Brexit, geniusly not helping anything at all. In fact, really bad.
Yep.
Obviously, and so things like that are they're bad in that respect. Costs are high, wages are high, and you can't really take the piss ticket-wise too much, because people have only got X amount of money. Because to go to a gig, for people, it's babysitters, it's travelling, it's accommodation, it's fucking big work. It's a big wad of cash, to go to a gig these days. It's not straightforward, so you have to be really careful. But what the levers are good at is playing everywhere.
Right.
So people don't generally have to travel that far to see us. If they've got patience, we'll be in their town at some point.
That's awesome. Yeah, man.
Within a 2-year period.
Yeah, man, you guys get around. Jesus Christ. I mean, you're playing acoustic shows all through March as well, is that right?
Yeah, end of February through March, yeah.
Awesome, man. We'll give that a plug at the end as well. I wanted to ask you, how do you balance? I mean, I'm assuming your life has probably grown and evolved to fit around the massive part of your life that the band takes up. But now at this stage in your life, how do you balance having a personal life with the relentlessness of what you do in the band?
It's not as relentless as all that these days, to be honest. But yes, there's a lot of downtimes, a lot of home time. So that's quite hard. And it's over the years, it's been it's a challenge. It is a challenge. I don't deny it. It's a real challenge, because it's a very different world to rocking out on the stage and then going home and putting the bins out.
Yeah,
it just is. And it's like you have to be a bit of a Wurzel Gummidge. Right. I'm not great at Wurzel Gummidging. It's like, I tend to have the one head on, which is to my detriment.
Right. Well, you mentioned Brexit back then. We've done a few episodes on here about,
I bet you have.
Oh, yeah. We had Kevin Brennan, the MP, on talking about it, and a couple of other guys from a campaign that I'm involved with called Carry On Touring, talking specifically about how Brexit is affecting crews and bands and the entertainment business from the UK wanting to tour in Europe post-Brexit. How's it affected you guys?
It's pretty bad. It's expensive. It was made, almost unviable.
Wow.
Not quite, but very nearly. It's like, okay, we'll go and make a small profit now. It's like we're just doing it to just play to the fans and not lose money. That's shit.
Yeah.
That's a bit weird. A bit fucking weird. We're doing it, we're getting paid. Yeah, essentially.
Right.
So, because of the cost. And, and you can be there and suddenly someone's got to leave the tour because they've been on tour in Europe with another band and they've got a 90-day cycle, so they've got to go.
Yeah.
So, where are we going? So, I've got to go, mate. So, I've arranged someone else to come in my place, but I've got to go. Fuck. Things like that. It's just like unforeseen things.
And that applies to you guys as well, the 90-day rule.
Yeah, except we never played 90 Days in Europe.
Yeah, but it's terminal for crew members, like I say, because they hop from one tour to the next. Now,
yeah, no, exactly.
You know,
yeah, it's really bad news for them. It's like you run out of your 90 days, and that's within a year. That's it, you're done. Can't go back.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, what have they done to deserve that? Nothing. You know, in an industry that was making the country the most money out of any other industry.
Yep.
You know, apart from the actual city itself. It's like, wow, that's great. That's brilliant. Let's shoot ourselves in the front of the fucking foot there. Let's do that, shall we?
Yep.
And all the British companies used to work in Europe now. They don't go there anymore. You know, PAs, buses, lights, production companies, all the best skills, all the best people in this country.
Yep.
Can't go anymore. So they have to hire everything over there, which is a bit shit because their gear's not as good. It's going to be good now because they bought all ours.
Right, yeah. Well, I've heard that because of the lockdown and everything, there was like this surge of touring activity as soon as the gates were open again, which has just meant that the cost of getting a bus and crew and stuff like that has doubled or trebled.
Oh, it really did. Yeah, I mean, it's hopefully going to calm down a bit now, but it was really, it was like, fuck, this is not virtually unfeasible.
Right.
Lucky survivor, and a lot of bands can't do this.
Yeah, so many people like myself who are just sitting in the pit stop now trying to figure out, is this going to change or how can I make this doable? You know what I mean?
I know. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just done, but it's bad and it needs to be reversed immediately.
100%, man. Yeah. I mean, what is the levelers' approach to all of this then? I mean, are you guys just going to continue doing what you've always done and what has always worked for you, which is just to keep on trucking, doing your thing and, not getting drawn into, the surrounding bullshit?
Well, we have to remain consistent. That's what people rely on. They rely on our voice, what we say and how we are as a beacon, hopefully for people to go, yeah, fuck it, well, still got the levelers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they're all right. They're doing their thing, always producing new material, new stuff, always trying to keep it fresh, and always trying to, be inspired and be inspiring.
Beautiful. And what would you say then to those bands who are out there who aren't, at the levelers level yet, who are currently hammering the toilet circuit in a transit van, trying to navigate this fucked up terrain, of making no money, sleeping in the driver's seat, eating pot noodles, and dealing with the fact that, everyone is broke and venues are closing down left, right and center and streaming and all the shit that, a young musician is faced with now when they start on the circuit. What advice, after all of your experience, could you give to those bands?
Get a job. No, really. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I think tenacity pays out in the end a lot of the time. If you're good, it will work. I don't know. It's fucking hard though. I don't envy them at all. I really don't. I think it's fucking tough. I think the music business has never been tougher to start out in. If you're playing, if you're not playing directly commercial music, where you might be, have some money thrown at you, and you're, on a talent show, whatever, that sort of thing. That world, that separate universe now. That music business is completely separate from what I would call real music. Which is a bit divisive, but it's the true thing. I think there's real music. It could be all kinds of real music, whether a fucking drill artist or a fucking folk artist. It doesn't matter. You're playing real music. You're doing something real from your, from your heart, and you're driven to do it. It's a must for you. You can't stop doing it because it's what you are. That sort of thing. That's the bit that's most under pressure. But people can do it. People are doing it. I'm sure every day people are cracking it.
Or get a fucking job. I think anybody listening to these conversations, because I ask every time we have a musical guest and I always ask them, I'm fascinated, and everyone's like, fuck it, no, it's just not good. I think anyone that listens to my podcast regular for the music episodes is like, Jesus, man, that sounds fucking rough. I don't think I'll bother, Well,
it's not what it was, it isn't. It just simply isn't. There was, it felt impossible when we started out, to be honest. Right. Like, we're never going to get a record deal. There's a lot of bands, a lot of bands chasing record deals at the time. And just like we just didn't fit anything. We weren't like the Stone Roses, so we didn't fit that vibe. We weren't like any other things that were going at the time. Yeah. With a violin in the band, it's like, okay, where's that fit? Are you folk? Not really. You'd be quite punky. Yeah. But you don't fit on our label. It's like, oh shit. So we had to find quite broad labels, broad independent labels. The first one we signed was French.
Oh right, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, yeah, great. We've got a rock and roll band. We've got a British rock and roll band. They didn't really know what kind of music we were, but they liked it. And so that was great, And then we moved to another one that had a similar approach, but it was in the UK. It was like, yeah, we've got a broad, we don't have a genre as such.
Yeah.
So you fit right in here. We'll support you because we like your songs and your attitude. And also, at that point, we had built our own world up anyway. Without the first record label, they didn't do very much at all to help us, but they did put out our first album,
right,
which is great. But the support we built it all ourselves without them throwing any money because they didn't have any at us. So when we became a viable concept for the slightly larger independent record label in the UK, and that lasted for a good 10 years, and that was good. And we had a good relationship with them because we tell them to fuck off, and they take it.
And I suppose that sort of put you in good stead then for when you went independent. You had that kind of bedrock of support there and stuff that you'd built.
Exactly. We started out, we were making our own cassettes, printing our own T-shirts. So we were, from the very beginning, built our own tour buses. We did everything ourselves from the very beginning anyway. So it's kind of like a brief interlude with the record companies, really.
Right, okay.
It was only 10 years, 12 years out of our 35 years that we were ever with a record company.
Yeah, I hadn't considered that actually. Like, if you look at your career as a whole, the time that you were actually with a label as a band is relatively small, compared to being independent. And that's why I was sort of like fascinated to talk to you, because you've seen such a broad change now, not just within the music industry, but within society as well. And you're still fucking here, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like I said, it's because we've made the right decisions at the right times. It's like,
right.
Okay, this is not cool. it's not being a record. Let's do a festival. When festivals, there's billions of festivals now, but 2001 when we started out to do our own festival, there weren't. There was the big ones. There was Glastonbury and Reading and Leeds and those sort of things, and a few quite niche ones that you might have heard about, and quite a lot of free festivals and sort of like dance festivals. But there was no one doing sort of like a paid for, but vibe-wise, non-commercial festival. Which was like with a massive eclectic collection of artists and talent of different kinds. Comedy, theatre, all the music. Dance, reggae, folk, punk, blah blah blah, indie, whatever. We put it all on. And the only proviso that they ever played was good live. That's the principle. And no sponsorship, none at all. Taking no money from anybody.
Wow,
none.
I didn't know that.
Never happened. It's our 20th year this year, and it all sells out, and we don't have to compromise.
Jesus, so how do you finance that then?
Tickets,
advanced sales,
just advanced sales tickets.
Wow.
Yeah, and we don't advertise it either. That's why people go, Beautiful Days. They go, kind of heard of it, word of mouth. You won't see a poster for it because we don't need to advertise it themselves. Well, not yet, anyways. But that day has yet to arrive. Fingers crossed. I mean, but there you go. That's kind of the vibe of it, and that's how we've done it. It's all generated from within people that actually attend the festival.
Amazing, and that's the way it should be. And it's very similar, I suppose, to what is very popular now, the crowdfunding model. I've financed most of my albums through crowdfunding. Where people buy the album in advance, which helps you then have the money to make the fucking thing.
Exactly. That's the basic principle. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, man. Well, I promised I wouldn't keep you for too much longer. So before we wrap up, we've got to let everybody know what's happening with the Levelers, what's coming up, what can they look forward to, and what's going on. Well,
we're releasing another, it's sort of like a partner record tour. We released one about 5 years ago called We the Collective, which is an acoustic reimagining of some of the songs, some new material for basically just really fun, for shits and giggles, really. And it's awesome. And it's a really intense musical approach. It's very focused. And it really brings the words out.
Right, yeah, cool.
And it works in theatres, sat-down theatres. So we're doing a sat-down theatre tour. So we've done another record to go along with that. So we've done the sister record to with the Collective called Together All the Way. And it's just it's us with other musicians and some reimagining, some new material. And just vibes. Good vibes.
Wicked, man. And you've got, like we mentioned, the tour you've got coming through March. What's happening for the rest of the year, live-wise?
We've got festival dates. We've got some Beautiful Days out where we do just essentially what Beautiful Days is, but just in one day in places like Bristol and whatnot. So there are a few places like that. Some of them confirmed, some of them not. And our festival and some other just festivals.
Wicked.
Here and there and everywhere, you know.
Wicked. Gonna be a fun year, man. I'm envious.
yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I can't complain.
I do think this train is ever going to stop, or is this thing just going to keep on going until the fucking wheels fall off?
The latter, definitely. yeah. What's the point of stopping? It's good.
Yeah, well, exactly. What else are you going to do?
When I'm not touring, I do stuff on my own as well. You know, I like being out doing it. You know, it's good. It's my happy place.
Well, that's going to be music to a lot of people's ears as well, man. You know, because it's our happy place as well. So on behalf of everyone listening, thanks so much for doing this, man, and thanks for everything that you've given us for the past 35 years. Long may you continue to shine.
All right, no, thanks very much. Nice one.
Thank you, man. It's been a real pleasure. Speak to you again soon. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Put it together for Mr. Mark Chadwick. What a dude. I really enjoyed that chat. I hope you did as well. A lot of knowledge in there, and I think probably the second highest swearer on the podcast after Benji Webb. I'm not sure how many C-bombs were dropped compared to Benji's episode, but I think it's a tight runner. That was a fascinating chat, man. I think we covered everything that I was hoping to cover there. You know, talk about politics and the band and art and the music industry. A hell of a lot of stuff. The guy knows his stuff and he doesn't fucking mince his words either. I love that. He said the only thing, you know, that we can do to affect change is to start tearing some shit down. I love that. So take it from Mr. Mark Chadwick, who knows what he's talking about. If you're pissed off with the Tories and you're pissed off with the price of your energy and you're pissed off with seeing your grandparents cold and having to choose between heating and eating, then don't wait for your MP to ask nicely and then do fuck all about it. Start tearing some shit down. Guys, enough is enough. Come on, man. How much more shit are we going to take? You know, I mean, it's embarrassing. The world must be looking at us thinking, what the fuck is wrong with those guys? They're just sitting there taking it, you know what I mean? So I completely echo the sentiments there. You know, I'm really fucking frustrated. As you know, I believe we should make anger great again. Start putting that fucking fury to some good use and start getting out there and making a difference. So I'm glad to see that the wise Mr. Chadwick agrees. As mentioned, the Levellers will be doing an acoustic tour starting Monday the 27th of Feb in Cheltenham Town Hall, playing all through Feb and March and all over the place. They're stopping pretty much everywhere in the UK. So you get check out levellers.co.uk for all of the live shows. You can also check out the band. You can follow them on Twitter at _Levellers. They're on Facebook at the Levellers, and I'm guessing they're everywhere else as well. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't need me to plug it. They're the fucking Levellers. You know who they are. You know where they are, okay? So most of you probably get your tickets anyway, but I gotta do my bit, you know what I mean? That's how I get people like this on my show, is that I promise to fucking not that the artists care, it's mostly the PRs, they want to know that I'm doing my bit for the promo effort right here, so I gotta do my thing. So yeah, levellers.co.uk, go and buy those tickets and go and check out an awesome ass-kicking fucking band, because they're coming to a town near you in March. Whilst we're talking promo, you knew it was coming, man. You thought you'd gotten away with it for one fucking episode where I don't monotonously fucking remind you to subscribe to my podcast. But please, if you haven't subscribed already, I'm begging. I'm literally, listen to the sound of my voice, man. This is a begging man right here. Subscribe to this fucking thing. Hit follow. Tell your friends about it. Like Mark just said, there's no force stronger than word of mouth. So tell your friends about all the goodness happening over here on the James Kennedy podcast. Hit the star rating. Leave us a review or a thumbs up or whatever the fuck you gotta do to keep this thing moving. And I will love you forever and keep the good stuff coming. I'll be back next week with another awesome guest. I can't wait for this one. I don't know what day it'll be. I like to keep Mr. Aled Clifford on his toes. I know he waits eagerly for these podcasts every week, sitting there by the fucking computer or the phone at 9:01, feverishly punching away at his phone thinking, where the fuck is it? So the next episode may or may not be out on Wednesday at 9. It might be out on Saturday or Sunday, but it's a fucking good one. And if you subscribe to the damn thing, you'll get a nice little notification to let you know when it's up, so you won't have to worry about it. As always, thanks to everyone who does listen. I hope you're still enjoying the podcast. Let me know if there's anybody that you'd like me to speak with. Get in touch on Twitter or wherever, where to find me, and send them my way. Have a great week. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and get out there and start tearing some fucking shit down.